welcome to another Sunday evening. Yes, in Australia anyway. Hope you're all doing well. I'll start off just by getting into the rigmarole and we'll start yabbering on. Got a few things I want to talk about tonight. It's a bit of interesting if I can even speak, scenarios tonight. So hail to you and welcome to Chuntcast episode 49. Yeah, 49. Yep. I probably would have been episode, I don't know, 109 or something if I was consistent. But here we are, 3 weeks in a row. We're doing it. I'm the king of this realm, Uncle Chunt. I hope you all are being great ones to you and yours. Before we begin, if you haven't already, consider joining the Chunt Core by following, liking, subscribing and all that good stuff. There's the Chunt Core splash page with the oath. And just the subscriber call out here. So that's all you got to do is click like and subscribe and you're good to go. And we can hook right into all the good stuff. Excellent. All that bullshit out of the way. So cool. All right. I hope you're all doing well. A couple of nerd things I want to talk about tonight. It's been a bit of a quiet week, but I've pulled out some things that I've wanted to discuss for a couple of weeks now. And we can just get right into it. But first off, I saw something quite funny. So there's all these things going on about the Xbox, Sony, FTC, you know, and the acquisition and the pushback and all that kind of stuff, all the legal mumbo jumbo. I'm not going to bore you all with all of that tonight. I just found a tweet that was really hilarious because there's all this talk on Twitter and coverage from about Phil Spencer taking the stand. You know, he's the head of Xbox or CEO of Xbox Gaming Division, whatever, Microsoft. And there was just this funny little this little tweet that went out of Phil Spencer. So it's like the Yakuza. I don't know if you played the Yakuza games or Like a Dragon games. Whenever a character appears on screen that's new, they get this little still frame of them with their name and who they are. So I just thought that was hilarious. This photo was going around Twitter and this guy posted this. Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, a subsidiary of Microsoft Corporation from Tim Dog. But Phil Spencer commented on that one, saying that was quite funny. He's a good sport about it. He always is. He says, okay, that's pretty funny. I even laughed at that myself in a coat and tie. You all should as well. Took me a while to find these back in the back of my closet. So Phil Spencer being a good sport as always. I just wanted to share that with you all today. I thought it was funny. Good on you, Phil. Keeping track of what you're doing there. One day, I know I keep saying it. One day I'll get the photo of the two of us on a wall somewhere, framed or on my desk, whatever. One day, I'll always hold it here. You know. Anyway, enough about that. Cool. So we're going to go through Ask Chunt and then two topics. Hopefully you find interesting and a bit of insight. I'm curious as to how this is going to go along with those two topics that I want to discuss. Basically, we've got Ask Chunt, and then we've got a topic about emulation of games and that viability of, and the availability of them all. God, we're on a good track already. I'm tripping over a lot of my words tonight. And then stuff about the Power Rangers reboot. So we'll get into that. A lot of interesting things happening there. If you're not a fan of Power Rangers, it's fine, but you might find some of it interesting. I know I hold that franchise close to me. Cool. All right. We'll head straight into it to Ask Chunt, and we'll get this show on the road. I got a coffee. Yes, I will manage to get through this. I have a coffee with me. Just hang in there with me tonight, and we'll get through. All right. Cool. Awesome. All right. So Ask Chunt is the one for this evening. And if you're unaware, you can submit a question through. It's totally fine. I'll keep track of them all, and I do keep them in a bit of a backlog so I can get through them week to week. So just expect, if you do submit a question here to me online, you can at me on Twitter with the hashtag AskChunt, or just leave a comment below the video, or even in my Discord. I've got that link somewhere. If you want to ask some questions, just keep in mind it's only one a week. But if I do get a lot, maybe I'll do a couple a week or whatever. But so if you don't see yours, I'm trying to get through them, right? But if you don't see yours week to week, just it's gonna come eventually, right? I'm just one man. I do this once a week. If I had more time to do this kind of stuff, I would do more, right? So don't take it personally. So this question tonight is submitted by Niles Netting, or Gnals. I know it's kind of like Niles Barkley. I guess you're a basketball fan. Good stuff. And he says, hey, Chunt, if this makes the show, thanks. It did make the show, and you're welcome. Keep doing your thing. I'm trying to. Don't be gone so long next time. Yeah, I know. I know. I know it's frustrating, even for me. Okay, so if the superhero movies die out, what would be the next big thing you'd like to see on the big screen? Or what genre is most likely to rule the box office? Thanks again, and happy you're back. Happy to be back, mate. Thank you. Chunt Court represent. Awesome. Awesome. I'm happy to see some of you out there picking up on that and having a bit of fun with it. That's what it's meant to be, a bit of fun. And just this is what he's talking about. It's just meant to be a bit of fun. Oh, excuse me. Taking a sip of my coffee right in the middle of the show. And it's just, I'm using that for fun, just as a way to kind of, be part of something with me, join the Chunk Core, and it's just about making sure we can just chill out as much as possible amongst all the world's perils, and we just back each other, right? Cool. So, if the superhero movies die out, okay, well, let's tackle that first part. Look, I don't think they'll die out as they were for a long time there, back in the 90s and during the very slow crawl back to the prominence during the 2000s era, where all we had was the X-Men and Spider-Man movies really doing anything good. The rest of them were quite trash and forgettable, but I still have most of those on DVD just as a why not. Spawn, I like Spawn. I thought that was pretty good. Daredevil director's cut, Ben Affleck's Daredevil director's cut, I thought that was quite good. Halle Berry's Catwoman, just ultimately forgettable. And Elektra, that was steaming piece. It had a bit of style, but anyway, you get the hint. Watchmen, I thought that was awesome. Look, Watchmen isn't my cup of tea. Like, even the comic book property is not my cup of tea anyway. But what that did, I still think that was a bit of ahead of its time. That movie came out well before any of this hype that Marvel's been doing for the last 50 years. But yeah, look, DC's made movies way back in the 50s. They did TV like serials and little serials before some cinemas would play movies back in the day. TV movies, all that kind of stuff. They've been doing it for decades. So it's not going to die, right, as we know it. Well, as we know it, it might phase out a bit, but I think they're here to stay as long as the good stories are there to be told and the audience keeps turning up, right? Comics have been going on, for like 80 years, in some form of fashion between DC and Marvel and all the other little independent studios and stuff like that. The Valiant universe is still out there doing stuff. You got Boom Studios that are still doing stuff. Like Hasbro have their own comic properties being published, and they're trying to get a new universe built with, not going to spoil anything, but the new Transformers film is meant to be the start of something new. So in some capacity, it's always going to be there, is what I'm trying to say. But let's hypothetics then. If the superhero movies just crash and burn, The Flash, I know I raved on about The Flash last week, and yes, I still believe that movie is good. And I said it wasn't perfect. It's not without issue, but I really, really enjoyed that movie in spite of all the issues I had with it. But even that's not really making its money back, and there's probably a lot of reasons why. The perception of DC is just in the tank. The actors, like Ezra Miller, is just a walking problem that just needs to go away for a while. Even Marvel is having some issues with, the dude that played Namor in the second Black Panther movie, Wakanda Forever. I haven't seen it yet. And the bloke that plays Kang in the Ant-Man 3, he's got his own court battle stuff going on, and movie studios don't want that. I don't know how they're screening these people or what, but surely there's ways to screen people to understand, do background checks for history of violence or mental illness or whatever. But even if they do, like, mental illness, it's no joke. But you just hope that these people are getting the support that they need from these studios, and they're not just using them as a quick cash in to promote a movie. You look after your people, they'll look after you. Anyway, besides all that, there's a whole other discussion. But what would be the next big thing I'd like to see on the big screen? Well, I'd like to see some video game adaptations. I mean, it's probably an obvious choice, and I hope they don't disappoint you on that one. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of books, like a lot of the big movies and franchises stem from a published piece somewhere, right? Like a book's being published that gets picked up and made into a film 10 years later or something, or a comic book property that gets picked up and made into a film 10 or 20 years later or whatever. Like, it's going to happen, right? So if you look to books are where a lot of the ideas that you see on the screen happen, right? Or you read, these people are out there that are churning out scripts. They get paid to churn out scripts. And what do you think they're doing? They're looking for inspiration all over the place. Right, they're reading books and they're trying to adapt it into their own original story. But what's original anymore? Look, it could go either way. Video games would be an easy one because there's so many great games that are in the zeitgeist and they have popular names and awareness of their trademark and their branding, like it's out there. And the generation that's around now is, the younger generation below my age group. Have known video games and major video game properties for their entire life. I mean, much like myself. So there's 2 or 3 generations there that have been playing games. Like, it's no longer taboo, or you're no longer an outcast for playing games in school anymore. It's normal, right? Whereas when I was growing up, this makes me sound really old, but I was born in the 80s. So, when you're growing up in school, video games are kind of, oh, you nerd, like that kind of thing. Oh, it's not really like, it's not that anymore. Everyone plays games, men and women, girls and boys, whatever you are out there. Like, you're all playing games. If you're not, you're lying. To some degree, you've played a game, right? So that would be the most obvious choice, just going to video game properties. But outside of that, man, I'd like to see something else. Like, just bring back the action hero. Like, I don't know. I mean, the pendulum swing has got to come back at some point, right? Like, this whole thing on, I mentioned something about it last week, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but there's something to be said for the lack of strong male models and strong male role models in today's world, and we had an abundance of them. Yes, not we grow as people, and our values and standards and whatever else change over the decades, but we don't really have a lot of those strong male men on the screen anymore. And I think there's a lot to be said in our real world situations that we could probably do with some, right? And superheroes, they're cool. There's some good superhero role models on there, but they're superheroes. They have superpowers. Not everybody can relate to that, and it's meant to be an escape. But when back in my day, I'd hate having to say that, but with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Van Damme, and Steve Seagal, and Chuck Norris, and I'm not saying all those men are perfect. They're far from it, but the action on screen, the stuff they did on screen, it was all just big blokes, strong blokes, kicking ass, saving the woman, all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, it might sound a bit old hat and probably taboo by today, but let's get some of that back. I'd love to see some action heroes again. You're going to see I don't know, Max Power movie. Like, I'm just pulling a name out of my hat, but I'm going to go see the next Max Power movie. Like, you're not going to see the next Spider-Man movie, or because it doesn't matter who the actor is. Like, the next Superman movie comes out. I'm going to go see the next Superman movie. Tom Cruise. Everyone goes to see a Tom Cruise movie, right? Where's that? Like, where's that? Like, Arnold Schwarzenegger come out, everyone go see his movies. True Lies I love True Lies. It's a masterpiece. Commando is like way down on the, it's so bad it's a good list, but it's a classic. You got Predator. You got Half Past Dead, Hard to Kill, Hard Target, Time Cop. Tango and Cash, Big Trouble in Little China. Kurt Russell, and like there's all these. There's a litany of them, but there's so many action movies from the 80s and 90s that just ruled, man. And they still kick ass, and they're fun. Like, and they don't take themselves so seriously. There's no politics in it. Well, no social politics in it, I'll say. Like, yeah, some of them are political because depending on what the big war was at the time, those people, unfortunately, were always depicted as the villain. So there is that. Like Iron Man. When the first Iron Man movie came out, they changed the origin of Iron Man to being stuck in the Middle East instead of, somewhere in Asia somewhere or whatever. Like that was just topical of the time, right? So, look, that's what I'd like to see. I could be wrong. I mean, socially or on Twitter, they might think I'm setting everything back and like, someone might take offense and toxic masculinity. No, it's all bullshit. I can't stand that stuff. And that there's a way to have action heroes in the world, and we sorely miss them, or at least I do. Some good role models. If I had a son, I would like to see some cool like male role models on screen for him to see outside of superheroes. I'll always love superheroes, but where's the next Arnold Schwarzenegger? Like Chris Hemsworth is probably the closest. Who's trying to do that, like a lot of action movies now. Or, Keanu Reeves as well, but those they're too few and far between, right? And I'd love to see that come back. Whether that's going to be considered socially acceptable in the next 5 years or 10 years or however long it takes for the pendulum swing to go back, but you can already see the pendulum swinging back. You got so many movies coming out, even superhero movies, that are woke as hell, right? And they're not making money back. Like people are just sick of it. And they're getting pulled off streaming services, or the backlash on this, backlash on that, and they're trying to force feed this, force feed that, like some messaging, whatever, that people just don't really care about. And I think the pendulum's going to swing back at some point. We're going to have some epic stuff, and men are going to be depicted as strong, dependable men again, instead of jokes who are demeaned and always looking a fool and weak and all that kind of stuff. And I'm bored of that, and I think a lot of people are getting bored of that too. Anyway, you can agree to disagree, but that's how I see it anyway. Cool. All right, well, it's going to take a quick sip. Yeah, cool. All right, well, thanks for the question. Hopefully that was kind of an answer you're looking for. I know I kind of brought in some of my own, projected a little bit there, but how can I not? I mean, movies and cinema, TV, pop culture, it's all there. It's all part of the social conversation. So how could I not kind of make that kind of commentary? But yeah, long story short, the next big thing I'd like to see is to bring back the strong male action hero again to prominence. I would love that very much. Thanks again, mate. Really appreciate it. Hopefully you're taking it easy, and I look forward to seeing your name come up again in future for another question submitted. But yeah, anyone else out there I'll get to your question that you've submitted already. But those who are watching new, if you don't know how to do that, I mentioned it just earlier. If you want to submit a question, just hashtag AskChunt in the comment section below, or on Twitter, just at me with the hashtag AskChunt with your question, and I'll get it in the show at some point in the future. Excellent. Cool. All right, so that's the AskChunt portion done for tonight. Next discussion topic. Yeah, we'll just keep it a bit loose on this conversation coming up, but emulation of games and the viability, and how legal is it, and what your opinions are. Now, this is always an interesting conversation that comes up every now and then, but let's just wax lyrical a bit about it, shall we? Cool. All right, let's go to the next topic. Awesome stuff. All right. So how did this get brought to my attention this week? Right. Well, there was a tweet on social media that got millions of impressions, and I kept seeing pop up for days in my feed, and some valid points coming up every now and then. I'm not going to share the actual tweet itself because I don't want people to go and throw shade that guy's way or whatever. So I'm just going to have the image that this individual posted, right? And it's of SpongeBob here with a bit of text. People who emulate games should be fined or sent to jail for theft. Emulation is illegal and hurts the industry. I pay for my games, so should you. It's only fair. Okay, so there's a lot wrong with that. And let's discuss why. Okay, so I haven't made notes here, but I know the conversation, and I know my feelings on it. And I have a good feeling that most of you watching this will probably agree. Okay, so why does it hurt the industry? That's the first question that I would be asking anyone that has this point of view, right? And some people would say, well, they're not getting a sale. Like they're not making money off those sales, or they're not making money off your ownership of that ROM or that illegally acquired copy of that game. You know, so they're not making money off it, so that developer suffers. Okay, not necessarily. Okay, so this was a long discussion on people wanting to give valid distribution methods their money so they can acquire what they want. Okay, so it is not our fault that, okay, I'm going to use the Transformers High Moon games, you know, War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, just two games off the top of my head. Oh, and Transformers Devastation from Platinum Games, and a bunch of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. And they're all license-based games, right? Let's use those games just on top of my head as examples. They all got pulled from digital stores because of a license expiring, right? So they could no longer legally sell those games online anywhere. All right, they're pulled from Steam, they're pulled from Xbox, pulled from PlayStation Network, pulled from Nintendo Online. You can no longer legally purchase them and add them to your digital libraries, right? The only way you could buy them is if you just happen to track down a physical copy that is probably going to be 2 or 3 times the price now, if not more, on the aftermarket, on the secondary market. All right, so let's say me for argument's sake, I've got a bunch of copies of games on my shelf out in the lounge room, right? The last couple I bought was the aforementioned Transformers Devastation, right? Because I wanted to play that again. And I didn't buy it digitally when I was able to, right? I had the game physically. When it came out, when it launched, I bought the game physically. I enjoyed it. I played it as much as I needed to. And I foolishly traded it in because I wanted another game, and I was still buying physical games for my modern consoles, right? Because I thought, it'll probably be on sale digitally later. You know, if I want to pick it up again, I'll pick it up cheap on sale, right? And then the time came when I couldn't anymore. Okay, so I just happened to track down a brand new sealed copy on JB Hi-Fi, and I bought it. You know, it's $50. I waited for a game sale. I got a percentage off, and I finally bought a new copy, right? So now I have that game again. Okay, I shouldn't have to go through those kind of jumps. I shouldn't have to jump through those hoops that I did in order to get that game again. Okay. Alternatively, okay, let's say what's a Mega Drive game that I really want? Okay, so Justice League Task Force on the Mega Drive, or Spider-Man Maximum Carnage and Separation Anxiety on the Mega Drive, or you know, what's some other ones that I've got my eye on? I don't know, you get the idea. Like the old Mega Drive, Nintendo, Super Nintendo era of video games, Nintendo 64. There's games on there that had, you know, limited run. Limited run actually is another one. That's a perfect example of a modern thing that manufactures scarcity to up the prices on the aftermarket. So, you know, if I want to get a copy of The Death of Superman on Sega Mega Drive, right, that's like a $600 cartridge, okay? Maybe $400 just the cartridge alone without the box and everything in it. So if I want to have a complete box version of The Death of Superman on Mega Drive, I've got to pay $600 because some neckbeard on eBay thinks that someone's going to pay that much, right? And it's going to be up there for years until someone does, right? Or I can buy some really trashed up looking version that's been treated really badly for $400 or something like that, without the case or anything like that, and the stick is all scratched and, you know, all that stuff, right? And like fine, whatever, the cartridge is there. You can get a repro label, you can put new stickers on it, make it look newer, but still, I still paid $400 for this cartridge without a box, without anything. Alternatively, whoever could just make that available on digital stores again, right? And I can pick that up. You know, I could spend $20 and buy it again. You know, something more reasonable. That's where this argument is, where people choose to emulate because the option is there. Emulation is not illegal, right? There are many different applications that are still available online. The emulators themselves are not illegal, right? And piracy has been around for freaking decades, right? when DVD burners and CD burners became a thing, when VCR players came out with the capability of recording video to them, there were many ways you could go to Blockbuster, you could hire a VHS tape, take it home, copy it with a second VHS player, or eventually you could get VHS players that had 2 slots in them, so you could put one in and play that tape, and you could record with the other slot. And the cassette tapes, audio tapes, many stereos would come with 2 tape slots, right? So you could play one tape and record on the other, right? So that stuff has been around for decades, right? And it's never going to go away. It's even more prevalent now, with the whole Napster discussion that came out with Lars Ulrich and all that, and streaming, digital distribution of files and media and everything. It's going to happen. It's never going to go away. All right. So hypothetically, if I wanted to burn a copy off a friend of a game that I've really wanted to play and put it on my computer and run it through an emulator, right? I shouldn't be at fault for doing that when that game is not available for sale anywhere, right? No one benefits from that. Literally no one. Okay, so these developers are probably no longer around, right? The game is no longer purchasable online, so no one's getting any money. The publisher nor the developer are going to get money from that anyway, because you can't buy it online. If I go on eBay and buy a physical copy of an old game, that's the same problem. No one's getting money from that except that person on that eBay account who's going to get my money because he knows I can't get this anywhere else. All right, so this whole argument about emulation being illegal and hurts the industry, it's just ridiculous. It's so illogical and so ill-informed that I wanted to say my piece on it, and I'm just interested to get that conversation going here. Like, what do you guys think of it? Like, yeah, I buy my games where I can, right? I've bought plenty of DVDs and Blu-rays for movies and TV shows that I just can't watch anywhere, right? There's lots of 90s shows and 80s shows that I grew up with that you just can't watch anywhere, or that they're not easily available. You can't buy them online digitally anywhere. So you've got to go buy some legit DVD copies from back in the day and just hope they made like a VHS or DVD playable in your region of the world, or get a region-free DVD player so you can buy them anywhere. And the same goes to Blu-rays. I've been doing that too. I've been picking up movies on Blu-ray that I can't find on any streaming service, right? And I take a stand there for buying DVDs and Blu-rays because I can always have it on my shelf to watch at another time. Because I found movies themselves are harder to find online to watch and consume. Like movies and TV shows, I find are harder to locate and consume online than video games. Video games, they just slap them up on a digital storefront and they're there forever. Considering like PC and Steam's been a massive advocate for that in game preservation as much as they can. Obviously, Xbox is pushing for that. PlayStation's not really got many things going at all for game preservation. Neither does Nintendo. Nintendo just is like a decade behind the rest of them as far as that goes. And they've even ruined some people's lives out there by suing them for millions of dollars for distributing ROMs of their games, which, fair play. That's an argument. That's a whole different argument of like you are selling or making it available to people online. Like you're offering a service for people to obtain illegal property. That's a whole other discussion, but I think suing some 20-year-old kid living at home with his parents for millions of dollars and ruining his life forever, just to make him an example. They've done this a few times now. You can look it up. I think that's a nasty tact, and I don't think Nintendo have gone the right way on that. Giving people a warning, letting them off. You can still set people as an example, but by giving them an actual formal warning, where give them a cease and desist if you need to take down what they're doing, but don't sue them for millions of dollars and destroying someone's life, right? Because you're not making games that were available on your platform 20 years ago. I don't agree with that at all. I think that's so nasty. And and it just sends a wrong message. Anyway, there's a lot of interesting conversations to come from this. You know, I will buy where possible. Like if you make something available to me that I can easily get in my part of the world, I'm more than likely going to buy it if I want it, right? Yes, I do buy primarily digital games now on Xbox and Nintendo. I have a digital only PlayStation 5. It's got no disc player in it because my Xbox has a Blu-ray player in it. But yeah, look, there could be a day when PlayStation servers, Nintendo servers, Xbox servers go offline. Highly unlikely given how large those companies are and they control their own servers and distribution model. But yeah, I mean, if you want to paint that picture, like, well, what if the servers all gone offline? You can't access your games again. Well, what happens if Netflix dies? What happens if Amazon dies? And what happens if whatever dies, like Binge and HBO Plus and Paramount Plus and Disney Plus? Or what happens if they all die? Like, you can spin that argument into everything. You know, more often than not now, your games that you buy on disc and cartridges on the Switch, more often than not, you cannot play them unless you have a day one patch, right? It's very seldom now that a game can actually be complete on disc when you buy it at retail day one launch, right? There's a high likelihood that without a day one patch, you're not going to be able to play the game fixed with patches that fix bugs or, you know, allow it to be played in the first place. Some games will require a day one patch so you can actually play it, and it needs to be registered online, like Steam does it. Xbox used to do that. Their DRM is still kind of up in the air at the moment as to how good it is. But it's just a fact, right? So you're essentially keeping physical discs on your shelf now for the Xbox One, PS4 generation onwards. They're just physical copies of licenses. Like an authentication disc is essentially all that is, right? So, you know, I get it. You want to feel like you own something, but you don't. Really, you don't. It's just an authentication disc. So it can connect to the Xbox, PlayStation Network, and Nintendo Network to say that, you know, you've acquired a legal license and you'll install to that console, and you can play that game. You're not actually running the game directly off the disc or off the cartridge, right? In a lot of cases. So, you know, there's that argument too. These people that you see on YouTube with rows and rows of shelves with with physical copies of games lining up everything, you know, PS4, Xbox One games and PlayStation 5 games and Xbox Series games and all that kind of stuff. Like it's some kind of badge of honor. Like it's not really. All of that's virtually worthless. But if it makes you feel good, fine. But that's why I've been really, like, since the Xbox One generation kicked in, I more often than not will always buy just digitally, or I'll wait for a digital sale to buy new games. I have a very slim amount of physical Xbox One disc games on shelf now because they're either games that have been taken off the digital store, or they're just my favorite franchises and I just wanted to have something on the shelf, as stupid and consumerism brain that is, but it is what it is. I think I could it's probably 10 games I think I can count on my fingers here of actual games that I've got physically on my shelf out of the 300 or 400 games I do on my digital library. But anyway, like, you do you, right? But this is what that discussion is about. You know, is emulation okay? Should people be jailed or sent to jail for considered theft? Like, it's not theft because they're not available anyway. You literally cannot buy these games anywhere. How do you classify that as theft? You can't steal something that's not available anywhere. That's not what it is, right? You know, if Sunsoft wanted to come out of the woodworks and put up Death of Superman and Justice League Task Force back online for sale, you know, and then I decided to still go and download a ROM somewhere and play it, then maybe you would have some discussion there, right? Because it is available for me to purchase. Like that's another discussion, right? And even if I did buy that, like, Sunsoft, is it actually Sunsoft? Like, who was the actual developer back then that made the game? What was Sunsoft just the publisher? You know, like there's a layered conversation here on what this means and how to navigate this. But I just couldn't believe that tweet got so much traction over the week, and I had to talk about it because it really bothered me more than it probably should have. But anyway, cool, mate. Like people agree with this sign. Like you've got the wrong idea. You're buying into something you don't quite understand, and it's some kind of superiority complex that you really need to get checked. You pay for your games, so should everyone else. It's only fair. No. Emulation is illegal and hurts the industry. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't, because that money's not going to those developers at all. End of story. Cool. Anyway, I know I've talked ad nauseum about this topic, but it seems pretty common sense to me. Let me know if I've made any sense or provided any insight that might help you understand that situation. And if you've even had thought of that at all, like I'm actually curious. Hopefully I'll see some discussion going on either on my Twitter account after this or in the comments below. Anyway, cool. Well, we'll move on to the next topic now, because we're running a bit long here tonight. Oh my God. Oh, there's my alarm. Oh, how unprofessional. I've got work tomorrow and I set an alarm to remind me about something. But cool. Anyway, hopefully that didn't come through and I've just made myself look a fool. Cool. All right. Next topic. And we'll go through this topic and we'll start wrapping up the show. I appreciate your time thus far. Cool. Let's go into it. Yes. Awesome. Cool. Thanks to everybody for sticking around for that rather lengthy discussion. But an interesting one nonetheless. Very, very interested to see what you guys think about it. Indeed. So, okay, Power Rangers. Right. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, right? I get it. It's full of cheese. It is what it is. It hasn't matured very much over the last 30 years. But I love it. I love Power Rangers. I think it's great. I think what it stands for, it means a lot. You might not know it, or you might not be aware that the show's still going, but yes, it is. Every season, there's a representation of almost everybody in the team, right? So even back in the 90s, I was just talking to my wife about this recently of what Power Rangers means, right? I'm just going to, this coffee's cold now, but so Power Rangers, back in the 90s, right? It was one of those first prominent kid shows that really hit it big, that there was someone in that team that everyone in the schoolyard, almost everyone in the schoolyard could represent or relate to, right? It wasn't just all white people, right? There were Asians, there were black people in it, there were everyone, almost everyone that they could actually put in the show over the last 30 years was represented. Like if you look through the last 30 years, you'll find someone that's of you in there, right? And that's what Power Rangers is. It's like, together we are more. That's one of their taglines throughout the years. It's all about teamwork. And it's all about us being people together, and nothing in the show is about singling people out. And if there is, it's a lesson to be learned of the episode. One of those teachable episodes where they try to highlight a scenario or a struggle that some of the characters will have, and what do they learn? What do they learn throughout the episode? And the bad guy of the day tends to represent, the negative of that solution. And, there's a good message throughout this show all the time, right? And as a kid, I resonated with this show because, a couple of the characters on that original series, I was like, oh man, I idolized them, man. I really wanted to be them. Like Jason, the Red Ranger, Austin St. John, I've met him, super nice guy. And Tommy, right, the Green Ranger, Jason David Frank, rest in peace. I've met him too. I've met the original Blue Ranger. I've met the original Black Ranger as well. I've met four out of the 6 you see there on screen, right? I haven't met Amy Jo Johnson, the original Pink Ranger, and Tui Trang, who played Trini my brain just farted for a second there. She passed away from a car accident in 2001, so obviously I haven't met her. But yeah, so this show means a lot to me, right? And I've met other Ranger actors after that. Like I haven't met Stephen Cardenas yet. I haven't met Johnny on Bosch yet, but I've met Karen Ashley. I've got all the photos in my bedroom there of all the times that I've met the Rangers, and you know, the show means a lot, right? So I've painted that picture. Okay, and you go look at some of the most recent series. Okay, so the last 10 years of Power Rangers, it's a diverse, multicultural cast almost every season, right? That's why the show has stood the test of time. You know, kids have been showing up regularly, like parents who grew up with it. Like if I had kids, you know, I'd be supporting my kids' interest in Power Rangers as well, because it's positive messaging. Yeah, it's cheesy, but and yeah, you know, the action's not as brutal or intense, brutal as it was back in the 90s, and that makes me sound really old. But the action's a bit softer. Unfortunately, I've gone back and watched some of the earlier episodes that I grew up as, like, oh wow, man, some of these fight sequences are really cool. You know, well choreographed and well produced, and a lot of them now, there's a lot of flashy stuff going on, and you know, laser cartoon kind of noises, and the fight scenes aren't as impactful, but it is what it is. But yeah, and that's what part of this discussion is leading to, right? So what's happening for Power Rangers? What's the future of Power Rangers? Okay, so there's a lot of discussions coming around that Power Rangers is to be rebooted, right? And oh man, where's that slide? I put the slide here somewhere. Anyway, there's an article that came out saying that Jenny Klein has signed an overall deal for television content with Independent Studio Entertainment One. Under the 2-year pact, Klein will serve as showrunner on E1's Power Ranger series that is currently developed on Netflix. Right, so that series that they're talking about is Cosmic Fury. Right, that's coming on Netflix very, very soon. Okay. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be great. It's a test bed, right? It really is. I'm not lying. Like, Netflix are producing this mini series. It's a sequel series to Power Rangers Dino Fury, which was a big hit. Right, so they're following up with all the same Ranger actors, and they've got brand new suits. None of them are from any Japanese series. They're not. The only part of Cosmic Fury that's coming out that's part of the Japanese series are the Zords, and that's about it. Right, the Megazord and the Zords. Everything else is original, and I'm paraphrasing some of that, but you'll get the understanding, right? And there's been some discussion out for quite some time now from one of the other showrunners, Jonathan Entwistle, responding to a question that the Morphin Grid, which is a popular podcast for Power Rangers, just put out a question online saying, what season do you want to see get their own movie? And they proposed, how about a brand new one? Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, so what does that mean? So I'm just going to confirm to you. So what's been confirmed for the next iteration of Power Rangers, right? It's a reboot. Okay, so after Power Rangers Cosmic Fury comes out on Netflix, right? And this is after the 30th anniversary special that came out that Netflix produced as well. And a lot of the same people that were involved in Cosmic Fury and Dino Fury and Dino Charge and a lot of dinos and beast morphers, a lot of those people are producing Cosmic Fury, and they did the 30th anniversary special, tongue twister, which I thought was really, really good. It captured the 90s cheese, but it grew up a little bit, right? It knew its audience. Right, and it hit home with some Easter eggs and some real deep cut lore that I loved. Like I thoroughly enjoyed that anniversary special, and I even got choked up a bit at the end. It really hit me home. It just hit home, man, because it made me reflect on what the show means to me. And you know, now I'm a grown man, and I still like the property, and I hold it close to me, and I've met a lot of the actors now as an adult that I grew up watching as a kid, and I've got a lot invested in. It's attached to me, right? And I know a lot of people have that same feeling too, right? And that's why it's persevered, and that's why it's one of the most longest running shows like for kids programming in history. It's had 3 movies. Think of them what you will, but it's had 3 films, and 24 or 25 seasons, or however many seasons that have been put out there. It's covered many different genres in each season. Every season has a different identity, and it just keeps reinventing itself, right? So what's going to happen next? A reboot, right? A reboot is the next logical decision, right? Hasbro purchased Power Rangers property, the whole IP from Heil Saban, about 10 years ago now, right? Give or take, for $500 million, right? And since Hasbro's had this license, I've noticed they've been testing the waters. They've been learning what they can and can't do, what's good and what's not, what fans respond to, what they don't respond to. And I think they know where they're at now, right? Even I've kind of questioned some of their toy choices that they've released. I'm like, well, like the Lightning Collection has been great. If I wasn't collecting Transformers, I'd be collecting the Lightning Collection. That's been super cool. But, I do wish that they would start leaning into some of the Megazords, right, of other seasons, right? But they haven't done that. They've done maybe 2 or 3 different Zords from other seasons, and that's about it. They're still leaning heavily on the Mighty Morphin era that everybody knows, right? So a reboot is the most logical choice. And I think Hasbro, they've been public in saying that they're moving away from the Super Sentai footage. So just a brief recap if you don't know. Power Rangers, for as long as time has always adapted the Japanese Super Sentai equivalent, right? And just cut all the Japanese stuff out and reshot a lot of it for Western audiences. Right? They'd hire a new cast, they would shoot, they'd reshoot the entire series and just splice in the Japanese fight scenes and the scenes that have the Zords in it and the monsters and stuff. And they would film very little or as much American film footage as much as possible. All right, so Hasbro coming out saying that Cosmic Fury is pretty much all new. I'd like to say it's about 70 to 80% brand new, right? And about 30 to 20% is attached to the Super Sentai that they're adapting this series from, right? So I think they're learning, right? Beast Morphers was the first one out the gate under Hasbro's watch, right? They wrapped up their engagements and what they were entitled to do previously. They did Beast Morphers. They learned a lot from that. A lot of fans love that series, and they've loved Dino Fury, and they're going into Dino Fury now. Cosmic Fury. God, the naming conventions hopefully improve that in future. So the next logical step is to just, all right, let's make all new suits, which they've already done, but they're still using Japanese Zords, right? So the next step is all new suits, all new Zords, all new story, all filmed in America or wherever, right? No Japanese footage. A new original team, right? That's what that means too. I don't think if they want to leave their mark, right? If they want to make a really strong impression, they're going to want to bring a whole new team. No Mighty Morphin reboot, right? They've done that a few times now, and we need to move on, right? And I'm saying that even as a long-time fan. I mean, the Mighty Morphin series is always going to be there if I want to rewatch it. The Boom Studios comics are always going to be there if I want to read those. And even they've introduced their own original teams, and fans have lapped it up. Right, and I'm reading the comics, and I love that comic series. It's awesome. All right, and I'd love to see something new too. Right, this is the big moment. I'd like to see what Hasbro does with the property, like they've been doing with Transformers. They keep pumping out Transformers content like it's going out of fashion. And I've noticed since Hasbro picked it up, there's board games, there's RPG games, there's figures, there's Zords, there's games. Like they're pumping stuff out, and I'm just like, yeah, cool, man. This is great. Where was all this stuff when I was growing up? So the showrunners that I mentioned, the Jenny Klein and Entwistle directing, they have been involved in The Witcher and Jessica Jones and that kind of stuff. So I mean they've done things like that with an ensemble cast and weaving a overarching story with other little arcs in between. So I'd like to see what they do with the Power Rangers property, and based on those shows that I just mentioned, hopefully that shows that they might just grow up the show a little bit, right? Because those of us who grew up with the show are now older, right? And audiences, even like younger audiences today, they're a lot more savvy than they used to be. Seriously, they're so sport for choice today. They know what's good, they know what's bad, right? They know when people are talking dumb to them, right? We need to stop making Power Rangers that's not for 5-year-olds anymore, you know? And even me, like, man, there's some stuff that the Power Rangers franchise has done. Like, since it's left Disney, Disney kind of treated that. There's a Disney era of Power Rangers that treated it like they treated you with a bit of respect. You know, yes, it was still made for kids, but it wasn't really dumb. Like they put story elements in there, they put dark moments in there, and they put challenging stuff in there. Even when I've gone back and watched those Disney era series as an adult, I'm like, oh wow, man, that's cool. You know, I'm surprised they're allowed to do that even with Disney, right? And then when Nickelodeon got the show back and just dumbed it right down again for 5 and 6 year olds. So let's grow the show up a bit. You know, it doesn't need to be friggin' R-rated or MA 15 plus, or, you know, we don't need to see dismemberments and whatever else. But there's a way to do it. Like the 2017 movie, the reboot, that tone, I thought that was really good, right? That if you just do that again, you know, maybe just polish it a little bit, and then do what you need to do for the fights. You know, make some cool fight sequences and stuff, and you're good. Make a cool looking Zord. I don't like the Zord from that movie. I think they shat the bed on that, and I think. Yeah. Anyway, this isn't a review about that 2017 movie, but the tone, I think they nailed the tone for that movie. So if you want to go with like a young adult series, you know, so the age demographic has matured a bit, I think that's the right way to go. If you're going to reboot the series, do it in a new way, right? Don't do the same thing that Nickelodeon's been doing for the last 10 years. So again, I think there's a chance that the series has been like widely known as filming consistently every series in New Zealand, right? So if you go watch, like, ever since, well, the last 20 years, I want to say, of series of Power Rangers, it's all been filmed in New Zealand. The vast majority of it has been filmed in New Zealand, right? Give or take, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, I think I'm right in that point. The vast majority of the last half of the franchise has been filmed in New Zealand. And you can see it if you go watch some of the series, and there's some similar locations and buildings, you know. But it is what it is, and the same mining quarry or the same construction site or whatever. It's always the same kind of locations. It's pretty funny actually. So that's going to change, right? I've seen like Simon Bennett. He was a part of like the writing crew, and he directed a lot of the stuff, or produced at least, whatever. And it's all been done in New Zealand with him. And even he's come out and saying like there's currently no future for him in the franchise going forward, right? So that means probably a lot of that production stuff is out the window, and Hasbro will take it in house, I guess. Right. So there's a lot of changes coming for Power Rangers coming, and I'm both concerned and excited, right? Because I want to see this franchise keep going, right? It's been a mainstay in my life, right? And you might think of that what you will. Transformers and Power Rangers have been there forever. Much like The Simpsons. I don't really like The Simpsons, but it's one of those things it's just always been there, and I'd like to see it always be there, because it is one of those properties that can reinvent itself every time it needs to, right? It's not one of those franchises that does its dash and goes away forever. It's almost evergreen, you know, much like Transformers. They're both very evergreen properties where if something doesn't work, well, they'll just reinvent itself 2 or 3 years later, or whatever. They'll just reinvent itself, right? And try again, and it'll succeed or fail, but they'll just keep going until, you know, maybe if it just keeps shitting itself for 10 years or whatever, then it might just go away for a while. But it's too valuable to be lost to time. And I think there's a lot of positivity that can come from Power Rangers if it's harnessed the right way, like it was in the 90s. For those of you who watch this program, oh my God, for those of you who watch my show who aren't aware of just how big Power Rangers was and how much of an impact it's had, basically the reason why Power Rangers is still a thing today is because all of us that grew up on it now have kids, and their kids have kids, right? And the values that show instilled in some of us that actually listened, right, and that actually paid attention, shaped us, right? A lot of positive things, like helping each other, teamwork, being a good person, right? Not being a bully, you know, standing up for yourself, like being a friend when someone needs it, like all that stuff when you're a kid, you know, and looking at someone who looks different to you and treating them no different than you would anyone else, right? and not just looking past the differences and accepting the differences and like embracing the differences. And you can see it in the teams that were put together over the years. It's everyone. Like the whole team is everyone, right? And it's not shoved down your face, right? It's not shoved down your throat. It's just, hey, this group of people turned up. No one's making comments on, oh, you're that race or you're that sexuality or you're whatever. Like none of that's going on. It's just, hey, there's a group of people that turned up to fight a common cause, and you resonate with them or you don't. And it's as simple as that. And I hope they continue that. I don't want them to go down the trend that's been going on with TV and movies the last 5-10 years where, these agendas are shoved down our throats and it just turns audiences off. Let's just turn up good story, good characters, good action. Simple. You don't need to complicate it more than that, right? Lean into the lore. There's so much cool lore in Power Rangers. It's ridiculous. Really ridiculous. And it all started back in the 90s. Like the imagination back then with what they had to work with, right? They had to build a show that was new, but was reliant on the fact that they had footage coming from Japan and just had to make it up to fit in. And they still came up with some really cool lore. And the Boom Studios comics just lent right into that and just expanded on it. And that's why you get specials like the Dimensions in Danger special, the 15th anniversary special. And you get the Beast Morphers special where Austin St. John comes back and he travels through the grid to help the team. And you've got Forever Red, back in the day where there's the 10th anniversary special, and the lore continues to grow and build upon itself. It's just awesome. Like if you don't know much about Power Rangers, look into it. There's some cool shit. Don't discount it just because of what you think it is. It's more than what it is. Anyway, I'm not a spokesperson for Power Rangers. I'm just an avid, passionate fan of the property and what it means for kids. That seems to be lost on a lot of people these days. Like there's a lot of darkness in the world, and Power Rangers is one of those things that kids can kind of just have fun with and just escape for 20 minutes or however long an episode is, learn a good lesson in there. It's not all fighting and flashing lights and big bang bang zoom zooms. Like there's a good story and messaging in every episode. And I hope that continues, right? But let's still mature it a bit because the whole world has matured since the 90s, right? Anyway, that's me on my soapbox again. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that discussion. If you're interested in that at all, or maybe if you weren't and you listened to what I had to say, it might have piqued your interest on what's coming down the pipe for Power Rangers to come. Excellent. Right. Well, let's wrap that up, and we'll do this last little zinger, and we'll come back and wrap the show. Thank you. Excellent. Cool. Well, we're almost dot on for an hour, which has been pretty good. I've got a good cadence happening with this. Getting an hour show in, about 58 minutes and 23 seconds of recording. But cool. Awesome. I appreciate you. Appreciate you for one, and appreciate your time and hanging out with me and spending part of your day listening or watching what I've got to say. Those of you who are out there that reach out and comment, send me a message or a DM or leave a comment on my videos or comment on below on my Twitter feed or social media or Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Those of you who actually comment and stuff and engage with me, and I know the viewership is there in my little pocket of the world. I just have to thank you every time. It's not lost to me. Like I appreciate any time that you provide me, and let me into your world for a little bit to have a discussion like this, and allow me to nerd out a little bit in your lounge rooms or on your phone or in your earpiece or whatever it is you're doing at that moment. I'll keep doing this. I appreciate it. I do enjoy it, and I've got a comfortable cadence now, and I think the presentation over the years, I've finally got it to a place where I feel good about putting stuff out there, and I'm still growing and figuring out what I like to do here, and I'll probably never get it one day, but those of you who keep turning up week to week to watch and join in and see what else I change or add, it means a lot. So I appreciate it. And I'll just start wrapping up now. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Enjoy yourselves. Take care. Look after yourselves and each other. And I'm going to push this button because I forgot to do it last time.
And may the power protect you.
Till all are one. Bumblebee tuna.
Yes. I might get rid of the Bumblebee tuna. It's a bit annoying. I think the Power Rangers Zordon, the Zordon's at the start, and then Hot Rod saying until all are one. I think I could just cut that there.
And may the power protect you.
Till all are one. Bumblebee Tuna.
Yes, Bumblebee Tuna indeed. Anyway.
And may the power protect
I'm
you.
pushing too many buttons now.
Bumblebee Tuna.
I'm just ruining the cutoff here. So I'll wrap up now. Enjoy your evenings. I'll catch you next week. And keep in contact. And I'll be back. All right. Toodaloos all. Bye.